Hey, it's Sarah Burke here from the Women in Media podcast. And before we get started on a new episode, could I get you to hit like, follow, subscribe, hit the bell, whichever app you do your podcast listening in. Make sure you're all set up so you know when there's a new episode and you can help spread the word. Oh, and if you're so inclined, could I ask you to leave a review if the app that you're using does that? You're the best. All right, let's get to the show. I'm Sarah Burke, and this is the Women in Media podcast. My next guest is a morning show co-host at Virgin Radio in Toronto, who's been on air across Canada, from home in Nova Scotia to out west in British Columbia. And she's passionate about giving a voice to the LGBTQ plus community in Toronto and beyond.
I was in one of my first full-time gigs. I was in Prince George, and while my on-air and my management team were incredibly supportive, I was scared to be a gay woman on a rock station because of, the flag. And so I kind of minimized myself a lot. And to see where we are now, that I can be out and talk about, my partner or pride, and that it's celebrated. We can pat ourselves on the back for having, a lot of mainstream success with that. There are so many underrepresented folks. When we have these conversations about pride and representation in media, while we've come a long way, it's not done yet.
Welcome to my next guest, Jax Irwin of Virgin Mornings.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
You know what? I'm doing all right. There's, as we all know, during this pandemic, there's ups and downs and light parts and dark parts, but I'm doing all right. This week has been good. Things are looking up a little bit, and it's getting warmer and almost into the summer, and it's feeling good. So I'm happy, and I hope everybody's staying safe and well, because it's a wild ride, isn't it?
Isn't it? How long have you been on that morning show now?
We just hit 2 years in January, so almost 2.5 years. Yeah.
So
yeah.
2 years into this journey that is morning radio in market number one in Toronto. How is it working with two dudes?
Two dudes, on paper, I'm not sure what you would think, but I love every second of it. They are honestly, and this is so cheesy. And at first, maybe we thought it was going to be the honeymoon phase, but they're my best friends, and I get to go to work with. Yeah, I love them to death. And it's interesting because a lot of shows, when you start a morning show, you're just getting to know each other. But Adam and I have known each other for 7 years. TJ and I have known each other for 4 years. Producer Jesse, who's just the best man ever. I've known him since I started here in Toronto, almost 7 years ago. So I am it's so cheesy and corny, like I said, but I'm the luckiest. I love those guys to death. Yeah, it's been going really well.
Did you always want morning radio? Was that your goal from the start, getting into radio?
That was the game plan. I grew up listening to, I grew up in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and I was obsessed with the C100 morning show. So I always wanted to get to that. And that was always the goal. Yeah.
Was your first gig in radio out east?
My first gig was part-time. Yeah. In college, someone was silly enough to hire me part-time while I was in college. I was working at Z103, the kind of mini version of the Toronto station. It's now a different station, but back in Halifax in my college years, in my second year of college, and then full time I went out west. So yeah, first time in Halifax.
Tell me about the big move to Toronto. How did that go?
It was terrifying and exhilarating and wonderful and challenging and beautiful. And it was everything. I always wanted to get to Toronto. I mean, Halifax is the best place in the world. I love it to death, but I always want to get to Toronto, and Ontario is one of my favorite places. It's scary. It's scary. And Halifax and Nova Scotia and the Atlantic provinces are a bubble, and all my family are there. It's beautiful, but coming to Toronto was something that I always wanted to do. And from friends to coworkers to everything, the transition was thankfully really easy because I was really supported here, and everyone was really kind, but it was scary. There's a lot of streetcars in comparison to Halifax.
Yeah, totally. So if I have this right, was your first gig in Toronto working for Kiss 92?
Yes, it was. Yeah, I was doing middays there, and yeah, that was my first gig leaving Halifax, coming to Toronto. So I worked there for about almost 4 years.
When did you start sharing more about your personal life on the air?
Definitely. I mean, it was a shift from solo to co-hosting, because literally you have more time. So it was more so when I started in morning radio. I was definitely I've always been out on air. I've always been proud about that aspect of my life. But with the time constraints, you can't really say what's going on in your personal life or anything in your life when you're, under 30 seconds. So definitely more so when I started with Adam and TJ. But I was definitely allowed to share a little bit more pockets on Kiss. It was pretty lovely in that regard.
Yeah, I guess with morning radio, there's usually when you're launching a new morning show, there's a lot of strategy and planning that goes into who's playing what character and all of that. So, how did those early conversations go with TJ and Adam?
They wanted our relationship to be as transparent as possible. Like, we are friends in real life, and they wanted to kind of have that represented on the air properly. And we always say that we want to be as inclusive and as engaging and as accessible as possible, and that was just kind of our only plan. And we get along in real life, so we wanted that to go on air. So that was kind of the only game plan. It was, I mean, with any show formulation, it's hard, and it's really hard work, and we worked really, really hard to refine, and we're still a newer show, but there's a lot of love that goes into it for sure.
You can hear it, you can see it, like on your socials. Yeah, like it is out there. I'm thinking back, I think it was 2 years ago, maybe. Could be 3 even, because time is flying. Canadian Music Week, I saw you speak on a panel. I don't even remember what the panel was about at this point in time, but I remember thinking, like, God, her confidence, it made me really proud for Toronto radio to have someone like you. I didn't know you at all then. I think I saw you in the bathroom after, and I remember being like, "What's up?"
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
You do remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that. Of course. Yeah.
Do you get a lot of listeners reaching out about that too?
I do. I have a lot of, I've tried to really establish, because like you said, like when I came here from Halifax, like I was coming here from Halifax. So it's been really important to me to get to know people in Toronto and the GTA and chat with people and start friendships and start relationships, because, a listener is a listener forever, hopefully, if they'll stay with us. But yeah, I do have a lot of folks reaching out, and especially honestly, a lot of queer folks and folks that are in the LGBTQ plus community reaching out. And that's really important to me, and holding those relationships is really important to me. So it's been pretty lovely in that regard.
What about, media people that you idolized growing up? Was there anyone that represented, that or queer community for you?
I mean, on a larger scale, like I guess international scale, of course, Ellen. And Ellen was the first person that I saw. And, there's been a different person now than she was then. Yeah, I'll just say that. But it was the first time I had seen androgyny in media and really kind of expressive that way. And I have always, dressed more and presented more masculine and androgynous. And I hadn't seen myself represented that way. And that was profound to me. And the way that she carried herself with not only humor and confidence, but kindness was like just, because I hadn't seen that. I hadn't seen representation like that from a gay woman. It was always just, this is a gay woman, not this is a gay woman that's making everybody laugh or taking care of everyone or entertaining everyone. It was really, really cool to me to see her doing that and to grow up. And I don't know, it almost felt like, because Ellen's okay, I could be okay. You know what I mean? So yeah, like when I was a lot younger, it was really comforting to me.
So, I mean, you just told me like so many wonderful things about your experience being gay, but I imagine there have been some tougher moments as well. Whether they were, in your first steps getting into the media or just outside of media. Tell me about something that still has to be considered in this discussion about representation.
We have come so far with representation and equality and having folks on and off the air that really represent great things, but we are a long ways away from equality in a full regard. And I think that, while we can pat ourselves on the back for having, a lot of mainstream success with that, there are so many underrepresented folks across the globe and in Toronto and in every aspect. So I think, when we have these conversations about pride and representation in media, while we've come a long way, it's not done yet. And I think it's important to keep that going. The momentum has to continue. It's not done. And we are light years ahead of where I started in media in 2009, 2010. And my first gigs, I was in one of my first full-time gigs, I was in Prince George. And while my on-air and my management team were incredibly supportive, I was scared to, I was on a rock format and I was in Northern British Columbia, which a lot of people are wonderful and tolerant, but I was still scared to be a gay woman on a rock station because of, the flack. And so I kind of minimized myself a lot. And to see where we are now, that I can be out and talking about, my partner or pride, and that it's celebrated, we're still a long ways away from, where we should be, but we're on our way. I'll put it that way. There's a long response to a short question.
How do you feel about Pride being 1 month in June? Is it still important? Does it still do the same thing that it's always done?
I think that we saw something different happen with the pandemic. And I chatted a lot about this last summer, especially rightfully so with all the conversations around Black queer folk and trans Black women that were coming about after everything we saw in June, is that because of the pandemic and because all of Pride had to be virtual, these conversations were happening in a different way, and they seemed to be going longer and deeper, which was like almost exciting. And that we were like, it wasn't just, marching down young on one day at the end of June, and then like everybody said these were important conversations. These were overdue conversations. They were longer conversations again, for the Black and trans communities especially. So I think that there's been a lot more work hopefully done this year, a lot deeper work. And I hope that, because we have Pride Week, we have Pride Month, but of course, these conversations should be happening every day, 365, right?
If you could change anything about how straight people are having conversations about this stuff, what would it be?
That's a hard question. Don't be afraid to ask and to be curious and to educate yourselves, and don't be scared to do research and go deeper. And that is a really important thing, is to do your research and to educate yourself. We are incredibly lucky. Like, we have, technology at our fingers, and any question that you ever want answered for anything is all available online. And don't be afraid to be curious and to learn more and to share and converse with one another, because that's, these open conversations and these dialogues are what's going to make everybody, a little bit more informed.
What is the most backwards thing that anyone has ever said to you in media? Something you didn't agree with. Don't need a name, just whatever.
Oh, no. Okay. How did they say it? And it was years ago. Be a little more feminine. But they didn't say it like feminine. They said it like less gay. Be a little more girly, be a little more feminine. They kind of put it that way. It was backwards. And they were just kind of saying, be a little bit less butch is what they were saying. That was years ago. Oh, let's bring up some repressed memories here.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah. How do you deal with a comment like that?
At the time, it really because I love feedback. And at that time I was vulnerable and I was impressionable, and I wanted to, appease my program directors and the people that were, giving me guidance. I kind of shelled a bit at that moment, but at this time, don't listen. Is that fair to say? Don't listen. Yeah. If you're getting feedback, and you have to stay true to yourself, which is so much easier said than done, but, authenticity will go a lot longer than, than doing what they tell you. Yeah. Especially when it's things like that. You can't change the way you sound. You can't change the way you look. So,
who gave you the best piece of advice you've ever received in media?
Oh, that is a hard one. Okay. So because I'm from the Maritimes, I think just because of my general disposition, I talk really fast. And I remember a PD saying to me years and years ago, Brad, expletive, slow that down. Where are you going to? Because I was just racing. Like, my pacing was like you couldn't make out what I was saying. And now that I listen back to audio and things like that, and so I try to just have that in general content creation, don't rush anything. But I was going a mile a minute back then. And I still talk fast, but I try to
talk fast
and slow down.
It's the enthusiasm. Yeah. I hear it.
People think I drink a lot of coffee, which I do in the mornings, but by the afternoon, I'm still just as speedy.
Yeah. It happens, whatever. And what's your best advice for, someone up and coming in the media industry?
Get ready to work your butt off, because that's what it takes. And don't be afraid of hard work, and always, to a point, of course, always say yes and be willing. And you've seen it. Jobs are so multifaceted right now. You have to have your hands kind of in everything, and don't be afraid to ask for a little extra work, or how can I help? That was really, really important. And I remember some of my broadcasting professors said that. They said, always go the extra mile. And while it's, cheesy, you've got to at this point. Media is unfortunately getting smaller and smaller. You have to be better at different things and be willing to help out. It is a small industry, so everybody, needs to work together. So, and also just get excited. It is one of the most wonderful careers ever. And we literally get to make people laugh and learn for a living. So it's a really exciting thing to do. Get pumped.
Mm-hmm. It is one of the best industries. There's so much fun to be had. And we're all chained inside right now. I can't wait to get out.
I know. Yeah, but your setup looks cool where you're chained into there. Looks great.
Thank you. So another advice question here. What about advice for younger you? Something you wish you could have told yourself, like maybe while you were in Prince George.
It's so much easier said than done, but be you. I was a girl. I was scared to be myself. And I mean, coming out of radio college, we're all trying to, be these, certain types of, I was trying to be this announcer or that announcer. I thought I had to fit in a box. And I think if I could go back in time, just be you and be silly and be authentic and be genuine. When I started having the most fun in my career, it's when I just kind of let loose. And when I was just like, okay, I'm weird. Like, I don't think this is going to change. So just lean into it. Right. Like there's not much I can do about it. So yeah.
What's the weirdest thing about you? Like what is the weirdest thing about Jax Irwin?
I mean, content wise, I danced in mayonnaise in 38-degree weather last summer, and like nobody asked me to. Like nobody asked me. It's like nobody asked me to. I was like, you know what needs to be on the internet is this video. Yeah, I have a kind of a weird brain sometimes, but you know what? It's a great industry to have a weird brain in. So
folks, she's being her.
Yeah. Oh, that's the thing. I used to be like, okay, I have to be this like certain CHR jock, or I have to because I used to listen to a lot of like American radio, especially. And I mean, when you're female in radio, like and especially growing up with a lot of like women in kind of boxed roles, I thought I had to be that. And once I started just, excuse my language, but saying fuck it, that's when I started having a blast.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it kind of sounds like, you've reached this big milestone, like being on a morning show. What are the other kind of things that you're dreaming up?
Keeping the morning show, saying it. No, I'm just kidding.
Fair.
Continuing. I mean, like I'd love to continue the show for as long as I can. It's like I said, an absolute blast. I would love to get into more, different aspects of media. A little bit more television, hopefully.
You're so good when you're on TV, man. I've seen it.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. You're so good. You're so nice to me. Thank you.
I'm not just being nice.
No, but you're so
what is the show that I've seen you like on a panel on?
I've done the social before, like with multiple people.
Yes. So
those ladies are a blast.
Do you always like the topics?
Usually, and they run them by you, right? So you can at least like get prepped and see where you actually land on them. They have a really good production team. So usually it's like fun topics or spicy topics. Yeah. It's usually good. And that like crew of women have such like contrasting views that it's a debate, right? So it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Give me like a spicy topic lately that you really enjoyed when you were on.
Is it okay to text your ex? Something that is a little bit different for, I think, straight women than gay women, because all gay women keep in touch with their exes. But we had some of the ladies saying like, no, you can't keep in touch with your exes. Some of them saying yes, but it's like, yeah, it was a good time.
What's your take on that? Can you?
Yes, I'm friends with all my exes. Everybody's good. We actually have chatted about that on Virgin Mornings a couple of times because some people text me and be like, stay away from your exes. But yeah, no, I'm friends with all my exes. It's good.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Yeah.
Adam always makes the jokes that the gays stick together. So there you go.
Or maybe they just like really understand friendship.
You know what? I feel like female like friendship, like relationships are also friendships on top of that. So it's like, yeah, keep in touch, right?
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. So I mean, putting all the conversation about, your personal life, specifically being gay aside, what about just how much you share? Because this is something for all women in media, kind of a line that you have to draw. I mean, originally because I was coming from solo jock background, I wasn't sure how to be vulnerable, how much to say, how much not to say. And like, I did have some, I had to take some prodding, and thankfully Adam and TJ are really good at that. They're like, this is a safe space. We can talk about this. I don't have too many lines. I don't have too many lines that I draw. I want to be as open as possible, because you never know what's going to resonate with somebody, right? And what somebody is going to need to hear or want to hear, or not necessarily want to hear and need to hear. So I think it's important to be as much of an open book as possible. I don't really have much that I'll hide, but it's been a practice of vulnerability for sure, because vulnerability is terrifying. Always is. Is there something you can think of that you shared, let's say over the last 2 years on this morning show, that you really got some feedback that it did resonate? I have, my dad passed away actually, right before we started the morning show. Like just as he just passed away right before. And it's,
I haven't really like talked about it fully on air, but I've referred to my dad passing, or, this time last year, or, this is my dad's 1 or 2 anniversary, or things like that. Like just like little pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And I have, those are the messages that stick out from folks. Like, I'm 32, which isn't young, but it's like, it's still a little bit young to lose a parent, and people who are in their 20s or late 20s or early 30s reaching out that helped them. They lost their parents, or maybe their parents sick. Those are the messages that really land.
Yeah, it's so important to still share like moments like that, because, especially in that top 40 format, you can sense that, especially program directors and consultants, they want you to be happy and provide that escape for your listener. But at the same time, like, it's almost more powerful to be having something that resonates, even if it's not the peppiest topic, for sure.
Well, exactly. And like, especially we're seeing it now, like life is complex and life is hard sometimes. And those are the things and I'll be back to selling Bieber in a second, but like, it's good to talk about those things because they're real, you know what I mean? And life is complex. And some of those messages that I've had from listeners, and even, or listeners talking about it now, being like, I heard you talk about this, a year or 2 ago, and I wasn't ready to talk about it. And like, I love to engage in those kind of conversations.
And thanks for being so open about all this.
You're a wonderful interviewer. You're a tremendous interviewer. I'm having a lot of fun. Thank you.
Stop. What makes you feel empowered in your role now? So, and I'm talking from all aspects, management, the coworkers, I think you've sort of covered a little bit.
I will say that, especially where I am now with Bell Media, there's a lot of female leadership. And that was one thing that I was like, okay, this is badass, right? Like, there's a lot of powerhouse females in the building. And that empowers me because I see I see it on every level, right? So you're seeing it, so you feel empowered. And also the belief in me to just be silly and just be myself. And from those powerful ladies, like, they believe in transparency and authenticity, and that's what gets me going. That's what,
Genuine curiosity, because I've worked for a female for like 3 months, just because of how getting other jobs and whatever has worked. So genuine curiosity. What have you found to be the difference between female management and male management?
I've looked out with a lot of my male managers. So like, I can't really say that there's a big difference, but like, I don't know, women just get it, right? So, and that's nothing against the men that I've worked for, because they've all, been darlings, but women just get it. And there's a different level, and especially women in broadcast, because we are so much further than where we used to be. And I can't speak to the 80s and 90s, but they were a really hard place from everything I hear. But working for a woman, just, I don't know, it kind of feels different. You get it. It's just any sort of feminine relationship, right? And it feels empowering.
What would you like to see more represented in the media now?
Black voices.
Yep.
Queer voices and trans voices. And I think that, like I said earlier early in our chats, we have come along so way, and there's a lot of deeper conversations happening, but we're a long ways away from where we should be, and we can be, and hopefully we will be.
How do we, as I think the next generation of hopefully those great female leaders, how do we engage people who don't understand in those conversations?
I always like to say patience. And patience and care and understanding, because like I said earlier, there has to be a lot of curiosity, but also a little bit of push, because you have to have that. And you can only go so far with understanding that people don't get it, but you have to be aware and understanding and accommodating, but also, let's get her going.
Are there any organizations that you really love that you want to do more work with?
Absolutely. The 519 right here in Toronto, just like,
for someone who doesn't know 519, maybe you can give a little background.
Yeah, absolutely. So the 519 is, any sort of resource that you think you need, the 519 has it. So the 519 is an organization that not only works with, queer, trans, however you identify, youth and young adults, but they also work with families, and they work with a lot. It's a resource house. The 519 is a wonderful organization. And I don't know if you've partied at Toronto Pride, but the beer gardens that happen at Toronto Pride, right outside the 519, that's their major funding organization. And I have to give a shout out, because we obviously during the pandemic don't have Pride. That's how they get most of their money, is with Pride. So if you So anybody listening can donate to the 519. I love them. They have literally saved lives.
We're going to put a link in the show notes.
Yes, please and thank you, within the city and within Canada.
Love that. Have you ever thought of starting an initiative of your own to support like-minded people?
Absolutely. I would love to. It is a bit, folks who work with initiatives, organizations, and charities are smart folks. And if I could ever, get into that sort of thing, but it's a hard thing to do. And it takes a lot of care and a lot of love. And I would love to get something going. Yeah. Hopefully within the next few years or later on in my career.
Tell me about something that never worked out as it should have on air. Just a regular old radio question in the spotlight.
Oh, these are hard questions on the spot. I have to go through my bits. Oh shoot, I don't know. You have to edit this part out of me thinking. Oh my gosh.
It's okay.
My long list of bits that didn't land.
Oh, I have lots. Don't worry.
I did so when I first moved to Prince George, I was new and I, was from Nova Scotia. I'd never been to Northern BC. So I tried to launch this kind of like get to know me thing, like find a friend. Like I was looking to find a friend, and Prince George is, Prince George, I guess, is northeast or southeast. Anyways, of Powder King, which is this huge ski hill in Prince George. And I tried to run a contest, and my boss, I don't know if my boss knew about it or he was for it, but I tried to run a contest where you come up with me for the day, we go skiing together. And I think I had maybe 3 applications. Nobody wanted to come. And I don't know if it was because you were trapped with somebody you don't know, or if they just didn't want to come with me, but I didn't have any applications. And I was like, it's a free day of skiing, and nobody came. So I was like, guys, don't worry. I got a bit, 20-year-old Jax is here. And nobody wanted to come. My boss was like, yeah, that didn't go well. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. So still waiting for my friend to come skiing with me.
Well, still, even on Indy 88 weekends, ask me how many times it's you do a call out for something and you're like, so-and-so just emailed in. They really didn't. I'm making this up.
And you're like, dude, this is a good bit. Why aren't you why aren't you email? Yes. Yeah. When you believe in your bit and it just doesn't land. Oh, that happens to me all the time. Yeah.
Tell me about one of your most proud moments on air.
Oh, my most proud moments on air. Oh my goodness gracious. I would say the first time I was able to openly, fully, because I was a solo jock, to fully talk about coming out, actually, with the guys, with Adam and TJ. I got to
How did you do it? Yeah.
We did it on air. It was during Pride. I had done kind of a CP24 hit talking about Pride, and I, kind of chatted a little bit about it there. Adam Wilde is, he's a tremendous broadcaster, but he's also really good at getting things out of me and making me feel safe. And I hadn't really told because when you're solo, you're not really being asked the questions, right? So I talked about being out, but I hadn't really been asked questions. Then he kind of did an interview, and I had a lot of messages from young queer folks. And that was one of my proudest moments, that I got to kind of genuinely talk about that. And then the second one was, I was terrified. I'm not good with heights. And I did the edge walk with Virgin
Tower, right?
CN Tower. Yeah, I thought I was going to pass out, and I did the edge walk with Richard Branson, which which my dad was a huge Richard Branson fan, and he was passed, but I was like, this is he would have been so proud. He thought it was really, really cool. So I literally thought I was going to puke on him or pee myself, but so that wasn't very prideful, but yeah, it was a really cool moment.
That's awesome. When did you know that it was time to come out?
I was 17 when I came out. I knew that there was something wrong. I knew that I wasn't myself, and I knew that it was time to come out and be myself around 17, because there was just this and when I came out, it was such relief and it was such comfort. And that's when I felt right, was when I was actually, open and transparent with my parents. I came out as bi, when I was 17 years old. So it was terrifying, but I felt that it was time to come out around then.
Yeah. I'm listening to an audiobook right now. It's Brandi Carlile's new book. I don't know if you're a fan of Brandi Carlile, but
yes. Yeah.
Highly recommend. It's called Broken Horses. And yeah, she talks a lot about just those moments where she knew that she was feeling in an argument with herself almost. I
wasn't being true to myself.
Right.
And I felt this weird sense of guilt and shame about something, and I couldn't figure out what it was. And I talk a lot about this on air, but I was a mess as a teenager. I was bad. I was wild. And a lot of it was just confusion, shame, and guilt. And that's how it was presenting, right? So, yeah, it was a
What are
wild time.
those things like, whether it's like back then when you were 17 or now, when you do have conflicting feelings and you know you need to take care of yourself a little more, how do you like shut everything else around you and take a few minutes for you? What is it for you that brings you back down to where you need to be?
Well, I remember, like, even at the beginning of the podcast, you said the time that you saw me chat at that panel, that you thought I was confident. I have tremendous anxiety. Like I have performance anxiety. Yeah. And I do have to like kind of reset myself a lot with those sort of things. Mindfulness therapy, therapy is incredibly important to me, and something that, if you have access to it, and everybody should have access to it, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
It's imperative. But yeah, mindfulness, I need to have like some sort of activity in my life now, like some sort of, I mean, it's hard in a pandemic, but yeah, exercise. And like, I love to have a bath. I love a bath, a midday bath, a midnight bath. I love to have a bath. It just, no, but like, honestly, if I'm like, things getting tricky, things getting hairy, I'm like, I just put myself in the bath, give myself a timeout.
I can't even tell you how many baths I have had in this pandemic.
Right.
All the time.
I can't get out of the bathtub. I can't. It's too good.
Sorry, I'm not on video right now, but I'm here.
TJ called me out one time because I forgot to take myself off mute when we were on a call, and he could hear the water splashing.
That's amazing. Oh my God.
What are you can do? It's a pandemic. I need a bath, you know?
Yeah.
Baths forever. Yeah.
100%. Last thing I'm going to ask you before we get into who you would like to nominate to come on this podcast.
Yes.
Is, I've seen your face literally on a bus shelter. Have you had any weird experiences just from being, in the spotlight so much where it's got a little hairy?
I tried, I tried to join Tinder last year, and people kept messaging me and saying that somebody had a fake profile of me. And I was like, it's me. And it's me.
That was the number one reason I never got on a dating app, was literally because, like, in London, Ontario, if I went on a dating app, the whole city would have known right away.
Yeah. And I was like, no, it's me. But I was like, yeah, it's awkward. Yeah. Everybody knows, but I'm like, no, it's me and I'm here, but can we go on a date? No. Yeah, that's been sort of awkward sometimes, definitely going on dates, in a relationship now. So thankfully she believes that it's actually me. But
did you guys meet on a dating app?
No, we met actually through Bubbled Friends earlier in the pandemic, which is the most odd thing, to meet somebody actually in real life in a pandemic, but she's the most wonderful thing. So it's been the silver lining of the pandemic.
I had some interesting experiences on the dating apps this year, and I was like, I don't even know why I'm doing this in the middle of a pandemic. Like, I don't even want to have anyone in my house. Bye-bye.
Like, what is it like? Are you on them now? Like, what is it like right now?
What is it like right now? Well,
what's the third wave vibe?
The third wave vibe has been sort of like, you can only really go on a walk. Like earlier in the pandemic, like, last May and June when things were opening up, it was like, yeah, I'll go on a golf date with you. But to me, and by the way, we do need to golf. We've been trying to.
I was about to ask.
We are going to golf this summer, because it was last summer. Yeah, I think one time I was going with Lisa from Chum. She was like, we need to.
Oh, you're going with Grassi. Yeah, that's right. You were going with Grassi. Shit. Yeah, let's go.
We are going to. Grassi has to come on this podcast as well, by the way. But yeah, like, to expect someone to take you on a golf date, like, that early in things, when that's like all you're comfortable with, it's like pretty expensive.
I was going to say, those green fees, man, those green fees aren't cheap. Have a beer.
You gotta really like you.
Yeah.
So no, I would say no success on the dating apps. There's been lots of like, I put like, music media. I keep it generic and hope that no one matches my face to the Indie 88 website, or, things like that.
Oh, they will. They'll find you.
So no, but for the most part, dating is super weird. And I'm very glad that you had something come up during this pandemic. That's lovely.
It was like, because I was on it in like March when the pandemic first began. And it was like it was very clear that people were trying to figure out like, okay, do we go on dates? Do we not? Like, it was an odd time, but yeah, the wild world of dating apps right now.
Yeah. My most recent is like, please just don't call me Sarah Bear. That's the one that came up recently.
Are they calling you Sarah Bear?
They call me Sarah Bear.
Yeah, draw the line there. No Sarah Bear. You'd be like, I'm a grown ass woman. Don't call me Sarah Bear.
Yeah, I'm like logging out for life. Bye. Anyway, so I like to end this podcast by asking you about 3 women that you really respect that you think should come on and tell their stories.
Okay. First off, I'm going to say Katie Kelly from Halifax. She was actually the head of promo when I was working the Pink Palace in Halifax. And since she's become a TV sensation, so she's on CTV Halifax, and she's just the most wonderful thing. And she is a woman who just pushed her way to the top in Halifax. She started, I think, street team, and she's just she is a force to be reckoned with. I absolutely
Did you start on the street team too?
Yeah, I was doing part-time. I was doing anything that they would pay me for.
Yeah.
Anything. I was like, I will drive. I'll
roll
anything.
The wires. It's fine. Yeah. I'm here. Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, I did street team too. Okay. 2 others.
Well, we're going to go on that note because I think that we should all go play golf together. I'm going to say Lisa Grassi. Because I've known her, and I mean, I was working for a different station when I first started, but I met her through mutual friends. She was one of the first people I met through Toronto, and she has consistently been the warmest presence I've ever met. Just incredible. And she is she's brilliant is an understatement. She has a brilliant music mind. She is she's one of the best women to have in industry. We are lucky to have Lisa Grassi.
It's so funny. I had no idea that you met her through mutual friends. As it appears, just based on seeing you guys out and everything, I thought you guys have known each other for decades. Yeah.
She's one of the, and she is just, and those sneaky funny people. She's just
sneaky funny.
You know what I mean? Yeah, she doesn't even know she's being funny, and I'm losing it, just absolutely losing it.
Yeah, I love her too. Yes, 100%. Okay, one more.
I'm not sure if you've had her on, but I have to say my gal Karen Steele, because she was just, she's my program director now. She was responsible for bringing me here to Toronto. You should have heard my demo applying to be in Toronto. She believed in me for whatever reason. And she's been in my corner through so much. And she's such an advocate. And she is just she's so vivacious. She's so funny. And she is a smart woman. And she's been through, she's been through music. She's been through promo. She's been through programming, and she's been through it all. And she is hilarious. And she's a force. Yeah. I got it right. I don't know if you had her on or not.
No, I haven't had her on yet.
Yeah. There's so many incredible women in media.
I know. And that's why it's at this time that we're recording this, I've only released 6 episodes because I'm doing it weekly, but already there seems to be a need perhaps for a weekly.
No, I could go on. Even just in-house, we have Shannon Burns, Sam East, Meredith Shaw, Ashley Greco, there's so many wicked women just within the building. And it's nice to see it's nice to run out of time to celebrate women. You know what I mean? That's a good thing to see in the industry.
Hell yeah.
That the list is too long. That's a nice thing to see, because I'm sure it wasn't like that years ago.
Oh my God. No, I might make it weekly. We'll see.
There's so many good folks. But yeah, Lisa Grassi, you and I need to go golfing. I'm down.
100%. Well, thank you so much for coming on this podcast. I have loved your work in Toronto since you've been here. And I'm just glad that I saw you in the bathroom and told you were awesome that one time.
You're sweetheart. Honestly, thank you so much for having me on and what you're doing here. We're lucky to have this sort of platform, and the fact that you're doing all the hard work and celebrating women like this. You're so wonderful. So
thank you. Yeah. We will golf soon.
I'm going to win. You watch out. Does that sound threatening?
If you like what you're hearing on the Women in Media podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcast service and even leave a review if someone's story has really resonated with you. I love how open my guests so far have been about some topics that aren't always easy to talk about. You can follow along for news on future guests and new episodes at Women in Media Pod on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And you heard me say to Jax, this may need to be a weekly thing. I have so many important conversations I want to share with you this month that there will be a new episode every week. Until next episode, I'm Sarah Burke, and thank you so much for listening.
I'm Allison Langer.
I'm Zarina Fry.
I'm Andrea Askowitz, and we're the hosts of Writing Class Radio.
the best writing podcast in the world.
In the world? How do you know? Have you listened to every single writing video?
You're going to fight with me now. You're going to fight with me now.
Writing Class Radio publishes true, amazing stories from writers like you, and you learn how to make your own writing better.
Listen to us wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah.
Another Sound Off Media Company podcast.